friends, today we will learn about food chain. What do you mean by food chain? And details about food chains. A classic person, a scientist named Lindemann in 1942 laid the foundation of ecological energetics. He attempted to quantify the concept of food chain and food webs by considering the efficiency of transfer between trophic levels from incident radiation received by a community through its capture by green plants in photosynthesis to its subsequent use by herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers. A characteristic of an ecosystem is the number and nature of the species that occupy its various trophic levels. The relationship between constituents of one trophic level and constituents of adjacent trophic levels may be described by a food chain. A food chain shows the movement of energy through a system by indicating the path of food from a producer to a final consumer. In general, food chains have 3 to 5 trophic links with 15 to 20 species. The length of food chain also may reflect the physical characteristic of a particular ecosystem. A harsh Arctic landscape has a much shorter food chain than a temperate or tropical one. Why are food chains relatively short? There are two main hypotheses. One, the energetic hypothesis, suggests that the length of a food chain is limited by the inefficiency of energy transfer along the chain. As we know, only about 10% of the energy stored in the organic matter of each trophic level is converted to organic matter at the next trophic level. The second hypothesis, the dynamic stability hypothesis, pro- proposed proposes that long food chains are less stable than short chains. Population fluctuations at lower traffic levels are magnified at higher levels, potentially causing the local extinction of top predators. This hypothesis predicts that food chains should be shorter in unpredictable environments. Most of the data available support the energetic hypothesis. Now come to types. Types of food chain. How many types of food chains we can see? Grazing food chains derive their energy direction from the sun. The grazing food chain begins with primary producers, primary consumers, or herbivores from the second link in the grazing food chain. They gain their energy by consuming primary producers, secondary consumers, or primary carnivores. The third link in the chain gain their energy by consuming herbivores. Tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores are animals that receive their organic energy by consuming primary carnivores. Now come to detritus food chain. Detritus food chains begin with dead organic matter, which is an important source of energy. A large amount of organic matter is contributed by the death of plants, birds, animals, and their excretion products. These type of food chains are present in all ecosystems. Various species of microscopic fungi, bacteria, and other saprophytes play a prominent role in decomposing organic matter to obtain energy needed for their survival and growth. Detri- Detritus food Detritus food chains are connected to a grazing food chain. Most of the natural ecosystems possess both grazing and detritus types of food chains. Their relative importance, however, varies from one ecosystem to another. In terrestrial and shallow water ecosystems, grazing food chains dominate because a major proportion of the annual energy flow passes through their circuit. In case of tidal marshes, almost 90% of primary production is routed through the detritus food chains. Food web. Let's know about food web. More often than not, Such some simple food chains are oversimplified versions of the reality of feeding relationships. Instead, there are often multiple and interconnecting pathways as well as numbers of different species involved at each trophic level. These complex pathways resemble a web rather than a simple chain and are referred to as food webs. So, a food web is a pictorial representation of the feeding relationship between organisms in an ecosystem and consists of interlocking of food chain. Energy flow model. Simplified representation of energy flow through ecosystem has been made in figure. Let's see the figure. This is the energy flow model. Importance of organic matter. It is importance of organic matter, and this is photosynthesis. This is photosynthesis, and L is the observed light. Here, observing light is the respiration. The model attempts to recognize the various inputs and pairs of energy. Two aspects with respect of energy flow in the ecosystem need careful consideration. First, the energy flow one way, that is from producers through herbivores to carnivores. It cannot be transferred in the reverse direction. Second, the amount of energy flow decreases with successive trophic level. The concept of Let's know the concept of trophic level. A trophic level refers to the organism's position in the food chain. The word trophic derives from the Greek word meaning of food or feeding. It is simply a feeding level as often represented in a food chain. Primary producers comprise the first trophic level, followed by primary consumers, that is herbivores, then secondary consumer carnivores feeding on herbivores, and so on. It is important to note that many animals do not specialize in their diet. Omnivores eat both animals and plants. Further, except for some specialists, most carnivores do not limit their diet to organisms of only one trophic level. Frogs, for instance, don't discriminate between herbivores and carnivores bugs in their diet. If it's right size and moving at the right distance, chances are the frog will eat it. It's not as if the frog has brain cells to waste wondering of if it's going to mess up the food chain by being a secondary consumer 1 minute and a quaternary consumer the next. Now come to ecological pyramid. The different trophic levels of an ecosystem are related to one another and can be summarized in the form of ecological pyramids. Base of each pyramid represents the producers or the first trophic level, while the apex represents tertiary or high level consumers. Other consumer trophic levels are in between. There are three kinds of ecological pyramids possible, which we can discuss. Pyramid, that means pyramid of numbers. We can read pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy. Pyramid of numbers, a graphic representation of total number of individuals is of different species belonging to each trophic level in an ecosystem is known as pyramid of number. It consists of a number of horizontal bars depicting specific trophic levels which are arranged sequentially from primary producer levels through herbivore, carnivore onwards. The length of each bar represents the total number of individuals at each trophic level in an ecosystem. For most ecosystems like grassland ecosystem, pyramids of numbers are upright because numbering of organisms decreases at successively higher trophic levels. However, there are some ecological systems for which pyramid of numbers may be inverted. For example, if we depict the situation of a single tree along with with its dependent insect population, we would get an inverted pyramid. Since the tree is a primary producer, it would represent the base of the pyramid and the dependent phytophagous insect population will represent the second trophic level. Pyramid of biomass. Pyramid of biomass represents the total dry weight of living being of different species at each trophic level at a particular time. It is usually determined by collecting all the organisms occupying each trophic level separately and measuring their dry weight. Pyramid of biomass. Pyramid of biomass represents the total dry weight of living being of different species at each trophic level at a particular time. Now, this eliminates the size difference problem between because all kinds of organisms at a trophic level are weighted. Generally, the biomass of producers is much greater than the biomass of herbivores, and the biomass of herbivores is greater than that of carnivores, and so on. In other words, we find that biomass decreases at each trophic level if we move from producer to top carnivores. Therefore, diagrammatic representation of biomass of individuals belong to different trophic levels invariably assumes the shape of an upright pyramid. This, however, is not always the case. In some aquatic ecosystems like large lakes and oceans, the pyramid of biomass sometimes assumes an inverted form. Since microscopic phytoplankton algae are the primary producers in the aquatic system. Being single celled organisms, they do not accumulate much biomass and are consequently, at a given time, the total weight or standing crop of phytoplankton is less as compared to herbivores or other consumers. This is the reason for the base of the pyramid in aquatic ecosystem being smaller than the upper structure. Pyramid of energy. An energy pyramid more accurately reflects the law of thermodynamics with loss of energy being depicted at each transfer to another trophic level. Hence, the pyramid is always upright. Energy pyramids in the case of aquatic ecosystem are also upright, even where the pyramid of biomass is inverted. In energy pyramids, a given trophic level always has a smaller energy content than the trophic level immediately below it. This is due to the fact that some energy is always lost as heat is going from one trophic level to the next. Each bar in the pyramid indicates the amount of energy utilized at each trophic level in a given time annually per unit. Now come to transfer efficiencies. In ecosystems, living organisms are linked together by feeding relationships. Producers have the ability to fix carbon through photosynthesis by a green chloroplast in their leaves. Herbivores are the primary consumers of organic molecules fixed by the producers. Carnivores are secondary consumers living on the organic molecules of the herbivores. There may be several levels of carnivores in any one ecosystem. In such cases, the ultimate level will be occupied by the top carnivores. The final group of organisms in an ecosystem are decomposers in detritivores, small animals, bacteria, and fungi, which can break down the complex organic chemicals of dead materials and waste products. The proportions of net primary production that flow along each of the possible energy pathways depend on transfer efficiencies in the way energy is used and passed from one step to the next. A knowledge of the value of just three categories of transfer efficiency is all that is required to predict the pattern of energy flow. These are consumption efficiency, that is CE, and assimilation efficiency, that is AE, and production efficiency, that is PE. Consumption efficiency is the percentage of total productivity available at one tropic level that is actually consumed by a tropic compartment one level. Consumption efficiency CE equals to IN by Pn minus 1 into 100. In the case of secondary consumers, it is the percentage of herbivore productivity eaten by carnivores. Consumption efficiency of herbivores are very low, reflecting either the difficulty of utilizing plant material or the low herbivore densities. Assimilation efficiency is the percentage of food energy taken into the gourds of consumers in a tropic compartment that is assimilated across the gut wall and becomes available for incorporation into growth or used to do work. The remainder is lost as phases and enters the base of the decomposer system. Assimilation efficiency, that is AE, equals to AN by LN into 100. For herbivores and retrivores, assimilation efficiency are low, that is 20 to 50%, while high values are achieved for carnivores, that is 80 to 90%. Production efficiency is the percentage of assimilated energy that is incorporated into new biomass, that is PN. The remainder is entirely lost to the community as respiratory heat. Production efficiency, that is PE, equals to PN by AN into 100. Production efficiency varies mainly according to the taxonomic class of the organisms concerned. Invertebrates in general have high efficiencies, that is 30 to 40%, losing little energy in respiratory heat. Among the vertebrates, ectotherms have intermediate value for PE around 10%, whilst endotherms with high energy expenditure associated with maintaining a constant temperature convert only 1 to 2% of assimilated energy into production. Similarly, herbivores tend to have higher production efficiency but lower assimilation efficiency than carnivores. Now come to tropic efficiency. Efficiency is the percentage of production transferred from one tropic level to the next. It is always less than production efficiency. After Lindemann's pioneering work, it was generally assumed that tropic transfer efficiencies were around 10%. However, there is certain no law of nature that results in precisely one tenth of the energy that enters a tropic level transferring to the next. It ranges from approximately 5% to 20% depending on the type of organisms in the ecosystem. In other words, 90% of the energy available at one tropic level typically is not transferred to the next. This loss is multiplied over the length of a food chain. For example, if 10% of available energy is transferred from primary producer to primary consumer and 10% of that energy is transferred to secondary consumer, then only 1% of net primary production is available to secondary consumer, that is 10% to 10%. The come to Now come to nutrient cycle. As the earth is essentially a closed system with respect to matter, we can say that all matter on earth cycle we can say that all matter on earth cycles. Every matter that is used by living organisms passes between the biotic and abiotic components of the biosphere. Cycling is the movement of matter through the system. In general, we can subdivide the system into atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, like this. By matter, we we mean elements like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, or molecules like water. The movement of matter between these parts of the system is generally termed as a biogeochemical cycle. Now come to gaseous and sedimentary nutrient cycle. In gaseous nutrient cycles, the atmosphere constitutes a major reservoir of the element that exist in a gaseous phase. Such cycles show little or no permanent change in the distribution and abundance of the element. Carbon and nitrogen are prime representative of biogeochemical cycles with a prominent gaseous phase. In a sedimentary cycle, the major reservoir is the lithosphere from which the elements are released largely by weathering. The sedimentary cycles exemplified by phosphorus, sulfur, iodine, and most of the other biological important elements have a tendency to stagnate. In such cycles, a portion of the supply may accumulate in large quantities as in the deep chain sediment and thereby become inaccessible to organisms and to continual cycling. Some of the elements that are characterized by sedimentary cycles do have a gaseous phase, sulfur and iodine being among them, but these phases are insignificant in that there is no large gaseous reservoir. Thank you.